Yep, there you go. So welcome everybody. I'm Caroline Luxoy. I'm the Broadband Program Manager for DHCD. I just wanted to hop on real quick at the front end of this to welcome everybody and thank you all for joining today. Um, this mapping process and our mapping data has been critical to broadband expansion and planning in Virginia over many years, but in particular through 2022 and 2023 when our BEAD funding determination was being made. So this had quite the impact on how much BEAD funding we received. So thank you all for participating and being a part of that and being so critical to this effort. This webinar is for the regular data collection process for the Commonwealth Connection Map. And the good news is I hear we are streamlining things this year by requiring providers to only submit what they already do to the FCC. So I won't steal any thunder from Brandon. So if you're ready, Brandon, I'll just go ahead and hand it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Caroline. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, great. Thanks. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brandon Herndon. I'm the director for the Center for Geospatial Information Technology. We've been involved with broadband mapping for Virginia for over 10 years. And with the collections from providers for the past 3 years. This year, we are going to use the same data that the FCC collects, which should make things a lot easier. Let me share my screen. Okay, so assuming everyone can see my screen here. All right, so here's the portal when you log on, and then I will type in the address in the chat as well, just to make sure everybody has it. This is where you will submit your information to the state. This is where we collect it at. So providers, I'm just going to go through what we need for a successful submission, how to submit the required information, and then take any questions you may have. It should be pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So up here at the top, here's the home is where we're at now. Underneath the about page and submit data page, there's some documents. We have the submission guidelines that DHCD posted a few weeks ago, as well as the CSV and shapefile guidelines. And that's the important one for the submission process. And when you click on that, it'll be listed here. There's some links that'll take you to FCC sites for information. And then it describes basically the process of how to format either your CSV or your shapefile, depending on what you decide to submit. So jumping into the submission, under the submit data, here's what you'll be required to enter for the company that you're submitting coverage data for. The ones that are starred are required. The FCC provider ID is, I believe, a unique six-digit field that that the FCC has assigned to each provider. So that should go here. So required fields. And one thing I wanted to touch on is that, we are using the FCC format, which means coverage will be based on location ID, which is based on the FCC fabric. And it can be obtained from the FCC with more details here. The important thing is that we're using version 4. Version 4, I believe, was released on December 31st, 2023. So if you're not sure what version of Fabric you have, I believe there's a date column in the Fabric data that indicates the date that it was generated. So version 4 is really important. I use version 4 when generating these location IDs. There's two types of files we can submit. We can either accept a CSV, which is the preferred way for us to accept information. This ensures that each location is identified at the service level that you have put in your submission. Also, we can accept shapefiles. There are, within the shapefile guidelines, within the CSV and shapefile format guidelines here, we have, the fields and columns and what's to be included in each, and also some examples of acceptable things. There's also an example CSV file. This brings you to the FCC site, and there's also example shape files. So here's an example shapefile template you could download from the FCC that we have linked in our guidelines. Here's also an example CSV template that we have linked in our guidelines as well. Yeah, so basically you can either drag, drop, or add files with the File Explorer. And then when you click Submit Data, you should receive a confirmation email to the email address you put up here up top when you submitted. Some common mistakes that we've seen in the past on why files can't be accepted is sometimes people put CSV files without headers. Sometimes the CSVs are missing or have truncated headers. One thing you want to make sure is that if you're using a CSV and you're using Excel to generate it, make sure it's in a text format and not general, because a lot of times long number strings, Excel will convert to scientific notation if they're in a general format instead of text. So that's one thing to note. That's really about it. It's pretty straightforward. We're not using the VGen address lists anymore for this collection or any collection moving forward. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, it's really important that you submit this data, because this is what we use to, or what the Broadband Office uses to make funding decisions and see where coverage is and isn't. Lonnie or Caroline, I don't know if you want to touch base on anything about timelines. The current portal is open until March 8th at 5 p.m. for submission. So you have from now until March 8th at 5 p.m. to submit. Virginia is only doing one collection a year. I know the FCC does two. The big advantage for us doing this in Virginia is that we get the information months earlier than the FCC releases it publicly. So if we were to wait until the FCC released this data, we wouldn't get it until maybe like the end of May, early June. At least that was the timeline last year they released it. So us getting this early really helps us make funding decisions about grants and body and stuff earlier, which is very timely. Yeah, that's all I have. Turn it back over to Caroline or Lonnie.